Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 4 of our Paris week. So this week we are taking you to Paris and discussing all things Parisian. And of course, Trish and I will only get you so far as French things go, even if we both lead tours in France and work in France. We thought it would be best to have people who actually live there. So we have our friend Nina Seffusatti joining us today from Provence. Bonsoir, Nina.
Bonsoir. Well, I'm in Paris. Look at me, behind me.
Oh, you are in Paris. Oh, very good. And we have, of course, our actual French person today, which is somebody who has done a fabulous job with her social media and her Patreon. We have Vero Savoye. And if you don't have her on your list of things to watch, you need to go ahead and follow her at Vero's France. I'm sorry.
You have it on the screen. Look, France with Vero.
France with Vero. Oh, right. So you should go ahead and follow her on Facebook. She also has a Patreon and she does stuff on YouTube. So she is our expert on Paris. And today we're going to have a conversation about what we remember about Paris, what we like about Paris. So go ahead and take it away, Miss Trish.
Yeah. So this whole idea of memories of Paris, we all have, I'm sure, countless memories, and some of us in different ways, because Vero has lived there. Nina, you've traveled there quite a bit. I lived there for a couple of different summers when I was studying at the Sorbonne, and Sarah has been there and has stayed for kind of extended stays with her family in addition to guiding. And there's just so much, I think, that consistently remains true about Paris. And then, of course, there's so much that has changed over the years that each of us have been there. And so I kind of wanted to do a little bit of compare contrast, different things that have stood out to you, individual experiences, family experiences, whatever it might be. And I would like to turn that over to the one who has lived there the longest or spent the most time, consistently. So Vero, can we turn it over to you? And I know that I'll share with everybody that we do have some pictures that Vero shared with me that we will end up sharing with you.
Okay, well, bonsoir tout le monde. Good night. It's nighttime here. And Happy New Year. We still have until January 31st. So in France, we say Happy New Year until the very last day of the month. So toasting you all, my friends, everyone. Cling, cling. So where would you like me to start? I mean, I did live in Paris. Now I live in the Loire Valley. So where should I start? I don't know. It's a big topic, Paris. It really is. It's a little bit overwhelming, actually.
Well, I think just like the city itself, where you've got past and present immediately adjacent to each other, you can jump from whatever topic you want to. So if you want to go recent memory or far back or however you want.
Okay, well, I've known Paris for a really long time because as a child, my family and I lived in Lille, the beautiful city of Lille in northern France, and my uncle and his family lived in Paris. So my earliest memories of Paris, since we're talking about memories of Paris, date back to those days back in the prehistory when I was a young girl in elementary school. And after that, I moved to Paris for 10 years, and I was a student in Paris, a graduate student, and then a young working professional, at which point I moved to the United States with my then husband and lived in Seattle for 23 years. And then back in March of 2019, I relocated permanently to France and was, again, a Parisian for a couple of years through 3 lockdowns. And I forgot how many curfews, and that was a very different experience. And after that, I kind of felt I had gone full circle in Paris, because during my Seattle years, I was also a tourist there, a visitor once or twice a year for 20 something years. And I thought, okay, I've gone full circle now. I've even done a lockdown or 2 or 3. So I moved to the Loire Valley in May last year, but I go back to Paris where my family lives about once a month. So I have lots of memories of Paris as a student, as a young working professional, but I think my favorite ones, I thought about that this week when you asked Trish, probably the years where I was a tourist in Paris, living in Seattle, and when I got to introduce Paris and French life to my kiddo, my son Alec, who was born in Bellevue, Washington. He's a little American. And every year I insisted on bringing him to France. And some of my happy memories, I could be a tourist again with him. We walked up the Eiffel Tower. We did all the tourist things. So all the great museums for kids. So I got to see Paris again through his eyes. And so some of these are probably some of my best memories. And then some special ones too during the lockdowns, actually, because it was a very interesting time. In between lockdowns when Paris reopened briefly, but it was still empty, and you could waltz into museums with nobody there and do everything you wanted. There were no crowds, no lines. So those are pretty cool memories too. So I'd say that some of mine are in there, somewhere between Alec and the newer memories.
Do you mind if I take a moment then just to share that picture that you shared with me of Alec?
Sure.
Okay, and I don't know, can you guys see that now? I don't know if it's popping up at all. Great.
Yeah.
So let me make that go big slideshow. There we go.
Oh,
Yeah, so this is Alec. He was probably 7, 8 years old. And by the way, he's turning 22 on Monday, my kiddo. Sarah, how old are your boys?
Mine are 14 and 17. And looking at this picture, I automatically thought to myself, I was looking through videos last night for my YouTube channel stuff. And I thought, I'll use some of these videos from a few years ago. And the kids are this size.
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen? How did they grow up so fast?
And your boy, the 17-year-old is pretty tall too. I think he's even taller than Alec is. So he's got a beard now, but this little boy you see there. And on Monday he's turning 22, but he speaks French. I taught him French, even though he never actually studied it, maybe a couple of years in high school. But when we came, and we often came at Christmas for the holidays, we would go all over Paris, and he would get to do all the stuff Parisians do. So we learned how to use the metro. We went up the Eiffel Tower, not with the elevators, just climbing the stairs. We went to a few places in Paris that he loves. So this picture, I think, taken by his father, really captures some of our stays in Paris, especially at Christmas time. I really like this picture. It's really cute.
Doesn't that seem like 5 minutes ago, though?
It does. In fact, I still have that hat. I just realized I was wearing this hat last week while live streaming. The hat still fits. That's good. If nothing else does, that's pretty good. Yeah. So
I'm sorry, I'm just going to take us to the next picture, and maybe you can tell us what this is. I don't even remember what order I put them in, so let's see that. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, so this is something little kids have always done in Paris for generations. And this is again Alec with one of his fedora hats. He went through a stage where he loved Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and the Rat Pack. So he would go around wearing those hats everywhere in Woodinville, Washington, where we lived. And that's his younger cousin, Jules, next to him, who is now 14, and my brother on the right. We took them that afternoon to a fabulous place in Paris called Le Jardin d'Acclimatation. This is a beautiful park with many rides and a zoo when it first opened during the Second Empire in the 1860s. And that little boat ride, however corny it may have been, was a big hit with the boys. We had a great time that afternoon. We laughed a lot, and nobody fell in the water, which was, I consider, a plus. It was a good one. And they were having a great time, you can tell.
Have you been there recently, like in the last few years?
No, it's been completely redone. I went to the website the other day and checked out. It looks like they've added a lot of rides, and I was very sad because I couldn't tell if the boats were still there. I know they have a lot of stuff.
They have new boat ones, and then they have also a roller coaster. They've got the swings like what we've been on before, Sarah. It's a fantastic place. And what's nice about it too is that if you go to, it's very inexpensive. So you can go in and you pay per ride, to go on all of these things. And they have a little farm, and they have some animals there like goats and things like that. Not quite a zoo, but you can see kind of farm animals in this faux farm hamlet that they've created. And adjacent that, or not too far, is just the Louis Vuitton Foundation Museum.
Yes.
So if you get your entrance ticket to that, which is a fantastic place to explore, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, we're going there on this tour, then you have a free access into the Jardin d'Acclimatation.
That's great. You can be an adult at the Vuitton place and then be a child at the other place, all in a day for a discount. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Awesome.
And then the next other thing, which I love when you're doing your live talks and you're doing things for your Patreon, you have such a you kind of pull at my heartstrings or maybe my stomach strings, because you do a lot of food focused things. And so
hey, I'm French. What can I do? What can I say? All right, so this one is special actually. First, because those were my favorite shoes and I lost them. And I had the Timberland shoes that I had for 10 years and I lost them in the move. But this is when Paris reopened after a very strict lockdown for 55 days. We couldn't leave our apartments for more than a 1 kilometer radius. And finally they reopened in June and we were allowed to go a little bit farther out. But at the time, the restaurants had not reopened yet. So I enjoyed the freedom and I went out. So you would go and make a picnic and go everywhere with a picnic, even a thermos of coffee, because you wouldn't find a cafe. Imagine that. There was no terrace there, So I went immediately back to my old hunting grounds, which were Rueil-Malmaison in the western section of Paris. A lot of people know the place because of the Malmaison chateau that Napoleon gifted his then wife Joséphine de Beauharnais with. But if you cross the bridge, a lot of people don't cross the bridge. You get to Chateau and then you are on an island. And the island is dedicated to the Impressionists because there is a famous restaurant there known as the Fournaise, La Maison Fournaise, which was inaugurated in the 19th century, run by the same family. And Renoir and all the painters you can think of and all the celebrities of the late 19th century would come to this island and enjoy the nice life on Sundays outside that restaurant, canoeing, etc. So this is the first day trip I took when I could finally get out of my 19 square meter apartment, 200 square feet, to come to that picnic by the Maison Fournaise. And a lot of my memories are there because when I worked at American Express France across the river from it, I celebrated many birthdays, many special occasions with my friends at that restaurant where Renoir painted that famous scene, a luncheon of the boating party. So that's why you have this food here. It was simple, but dang, it was my first picnic in over 2 months and it felt really good.
I love hearing about that. And as I'm scanning through the picture, one of the things that really strikes me the most is that you have your own knife with your name on it.
Yes, Opinel knife. All my friends know, all my patrons know, all my tour members knew back in the day that I am a big Opinel fan. And when I was bored during the lockdown, I went online to the Opinel website and ordered a new one with my name on it in case I wake up one morning and forgot my name. So it says Vero and it goes everywhere with me on all picnics. This is it, little Opinel knife.
And I'm just curious, I'm going to go ahead and stop share on this. I'm curious for everybody who's on the screen right now, what are some of your favorite picnic places in Paris?
Oh, well, you and I have our favorite.
Yes.
I mean, the obvious one, which is the Champ de Mars. That's where Trish and I like to go and take a bottle of rosé and get pink cheeks and eat cheese. So I'm going to just go ahead and be the most upfront. Yeah, that's my favorite.
It's a fantastic place.
Fun with that.
On regular days or when there are festivals going, or I mean, there's just so much activity that can be happening there. So you can feel, to me, I feel like we can be intimate in this grand space, right? You have your own little thing, and then you have friends, and then maybe there's another picnicker next to you, and you start to share, you talk, and like, oh, well, we'll give you some of this, and they say, oh, well, we'll offer you some of this, and then you could be at this huge festival or event, and it's so cool to feel engaged and a part of that, even if you don't necessarily speak the language or you're not there with your own local friends or whatever. That's what I think is so cool about that transformative space being there.
And they also often have guys walking around selling rosé out of their backpacks. Last time I was there was a guy who had a tank on his back and he with a hose coming out of it and those party cups, and he was selling beer and just wandering around and just, hey, would you like a pint of beer? But it always has, even on days when there's nothing going on, there's always kind of a party atmosphere when it's warm. Everybody's out when it's warm. So it's a great place to go. And you see, I mean, it is super touristy, but at the same time, you see lots of local people out there with their kids riding their bikes. And it just has, that's probably my favorite thing to do in Paris, to take a picnic out to the Champ de Mars. I like that better than any museum personally.
Great.
What about
Can I
you?
just suggest another place? You know, the Canal Saint-Martin. That I was it was a couple of years ago renting an apartment, an Airbnb with a bunch of girls, a bunch of friends, and I just found the canal very. It was summer, I think it was June or something, and I thought that is really the place where I don't know. There was something special maybe that year or that summer. Maybe I felt good. I don't know, but the Canal Saint-Martin was really for me, special. So it's Place de la République. If you kind of get an idea of where Paris is, a little east of that, it's not far, from anything from metro stations. So I like that. It's also maybe the canal, the water, or just being by the Seine River, because I like looking at water. That's my thing. Right? So,
You're such a hip person, because that's one of the trendiest places to hang out at night in Paris and have picnics at. I always knew this is you. You're the trendy one. Hip. She's hip.
The oldest, but
I did not say that.
Where on the Seine do you go? Do you go on the Ile de la Cité and you go on the edge there, or you stay on either of the banks?
Well, there is a little spot, when you're at the very, very end at the Ile de la Cité, where you have, it's like the prow of a ship, actually. And there's a tiny little garden there with benches and everything. I've been there several times, and there are people, but it's not overly crowded. Maybe it depends on the days or if it's vacation time or not. But that's another perfect spot. Yes, it is.
Le Square du Vert Galant.
Ah, oui, that's it.
That's where the statue of Henry IV is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
It's a great place. Great place.
Yeah.
And some other people might know that if you have gone on any of the boat river rides, then it's where the Pont de Vedette pick up, right?
Yeah.
So same thing, right along there. But it's gorgeous. You've got the willow trees that their leaves are just dipping down, just barely about to touch the Seine, and it's just so ethereal and so evocative. And then if you're there right at sunset, as the city of light is starting to come alive with its lights, and then you do have the boats going by and all of this, it's so magical. And then watching the sun go down and the light fill up with the glorious pastel colors that any impressionist painter would just be like, oh, I'm in heaven right here.
I'm going to go a little different direction with another suggestion, because I love these big open spaces, the grandness of sitting on the banks of the Seine, the grandness of the Champ de Mars. But I think if I think about my happy place and my warm memories of Paris, they're in more intimate spaces. And so I'm not sure if it's legit to do a picnic, but I know I have in the Palais Royal, in that little courtyard, which I think is I don't know if it's legit. I've done it before. I brought my little sandwich and my pastries and stuff. I've done pastry tastings for groups. So I love the Palais Royal and Place Dauphine. Those are two of my favorite places that just feel, what I love about those spaces is how architecture is used to create outdoor indoor spaces. So you're in these spaces, you feel like you're inside. I think Place de Vosges is the same feeling, where you're in a place, you're in a square that's outdoors, but because of the way they've designed all the buildings around it, you really do feel like you're in an infinite indoor space. And that is, for me, when I get that warm and cozy feeling thinking about Paris, especially Place Dauphine, like on a nice day when the sun is setting. Man, nothing better than that to sit on a bench and eat a sandwich, in my opinion.
A good sandwich, yes. Yes.
Well, we're in Paris. I don't know that there is a bad sandwich unless you're going to McDonald's.
There are bad sandwiches, but a lot of them were good.
Can I just take a moment, just take a breath? So invite those who are watching. And first of all, thank you, everybody who is tuning into this event. But we'd like to hear about your memories too. So please make use of that chat feed on your page there and tell us some of your favorite memories or memories that you would like to have. That's fun, because maybe some people haven't traveled to Paris yet, but maybe you've heard of things that you would like to do, and add that into the chat feed, add your comments, add your reactions. We'll try to take some time at the end to look through some of those. And if not, for sure, we'll go back after the recording of this and we'll reply to your questions and comments and all of your sharing of your memories. So now, Sarah, let me ask you something. this is kind of a strange question, and I'm doing it because it's going to selfishly lead me. No, not quite saucy, but it's going to lead me into something else that I do want to talk about regarding Paris. But what was maybe the most disconcerting or like challenging experience that you've ever had in Paris? Because we've all had it. Everybody does.
This kind of goes back to that conversation we had on Monday about my earliest memory of Paris is 1985, and I was 10 years old, and my family was on a big trip because my dad was working on the London Stock Exchange, and so we did the big National Lampoon's Christmas or European vacation, and we came to Paris, and yeah, I found Paris to be scary. I'd never left the United States. I'd actually never been on a plane before. I was 10 years old. So I think part of it is colored by the fact that it was all so intimidating because it was so big. I'm from a little beach town in California where everything is no higher than 2 stories, and just to be in this place that felt so oppressive. The most disconcerting thing that happened to me, though, is that I was attacked by a band of roving thieves that were children. So I was standing on the Trocadero. I know it was the Trocadero, and I had my little purse because I was 10 and I thought I was a grown up. So I had my little purse, and inside my purse was all this junk I'd been collecting, like a sugar packet from the Schilthorn and a Coke can from Belgium, like all these just weird things that 10-year-olds would collect. And these street urchins came over with newspapers and shoved them in my face, and at the same time stuck their hand underneath those newspapers to grab what was in my bag. So that is something that sounds like it's straight out of Oliver Twist. Like, I mean, it's when I'm telling you this story, I'm thinking that didn't happen to me. I saw that in a movie because that just seems like something so 19th century, but it actually did happen to me. So yeah, so if you're talking about disconcerting memories, that did not leave a good taste in my mouth. So when I went back to Paris when I was 18 with my 2 best friends, I didn't really want to go. I just had this feeling like, oh, Paris is scary and intimidating. And when we went there, we were such cheap backpackers that we stayed only for maybe 2 or 3 days because it was very expensive in the 90s. I mean, comparatively to Eastern Europe, for example. So it took me a while, to kind of warm up to it. I think guiding and really getting to know the city from a historical point of view and having to study it really deeply has given me such a great appreciation for it. But it was pretty hard to get over being attacked by pickpockets when you're 10. So anyway, that's my Oliver Twist story. Sorry.
Oh.
On the bright side, Sarah, they are still there, those people. They're, older now, but think of poetic justice because you're so tall that if they ever get close to you again, they're going to be sorry.
I'm like the Eiffel Tower.
Remember me when I was 10 years old? Remember that? Yeah, you'll scare them away. You'll scare them. You'll see. They're not very tall.
I'll see. We can give you
that does color my memory because I was probably 5 feet tall. I see pictures of myself, and I was shorter than my mom when I was 10, and she's 5 foot too. Yeah, so it was.
Imagine now, huh? What do you want?
People don't mess with me now. Maybe that's why I'm intimidating. I had to learn young.
That's why I'm saying now you can share the nickname with the Eiffel Tower, the Dame de Fer, the Iron Lady.
Yes,
thanks. I'll take it. Margaret Thatcher also, right?
Right. Also, yes, that's true. Well, what about you? What might, in all the experience that you've had there, living there, working there, what might have been kind of disconcerting or off-putting to you?
I think one of the most off-putting things about Paris when you live there, I'm sure visitors experience it as well, but more, not as often, is when you work in Paris and when you commute every day to the suburbs, for example, you are completely reliant on public transportation. And, I worked in Paris from the kind of the late 80s to the mid 90s for American Express France in Rueil on the outskirts. So I would commute. I lived downtown. The strikes, it's just brutal. And you can understand why the strikes are happening, but they get really old. And this was probably my least favorite part about living in Paris, the number of strikes. We haven't had them lately, we got to thank COVID for something, right? We haven't had them lately, but I'm sure they will return, especially around the presidential election in a few months.
Well, when
It's a national hobby in France, national hobby. Remember? Strikes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
And I respect them for that because, Italians do these strikes that are like, oh, today 3 bus lines in Rome aren't going to run. And it's just annoying. It doesn't make a point. It just irritates the crap out of you. But the French, when they strike, they mean it. I remember that strike where they shut down all of the auto routes where the trucks like blockaded all of the auto routes. They're so, good at it.
That was my least favorite thing. That really left a bitter taste in my mouth because it was exhausting after a long day of work. I mean, the commute was long enough. And that RER train, man, we got slowed down more often and they still happen. And then you have technical issues. You'll be riding the metro still today, An incident happened on line 4. All trains have been stopped for now. And you just wait and wait and wait. And nobody says anything. And you just wait and wait. So you walk. You just leave and you walk. Living in Paris, and I'm sure New York is the same way, all big cities. But living in Paris takes a lot of, you need some grit. And, just because it's not easy every day. It's not easy every day.
I do, as Sarah was mentioning, kind of the admirable thing, or one of a couple of admirable things about strikes in Paris is, one, you are notified well in advance, right? We're going to be striking for the next 3 days. And so these things are going to be compromised. Plan your alternate route, which doesn't necessarily happen in the United States. But then the other thing behind it too, for me, which I think is kind of cool, is the solidarity behind it, right? It might be that the professors at the university have a grievance about not getting paid enough, or they don't have this, that, or the other. But then the students join in because they want to support. And maybe the construction workers want to support because they know if this happens to them, it could very well happen to us. And so we're all in this together.
Yeah, that's what happened in May 1968 after the student riots, and the de Gaulle presidency almost got toppled over by it because it became a general strike across the country, and it was really hard to put an end to it. So there is this sense, and even on TV, they interview people, who've been trying to get home in the evening and they're tired. Some will grouse and complain, but some people will say, yeah, but I mean, if they don't do anything, where are we going? It's like they have some sort of, like you said, Trish, solidarity, and people understand where it's coming from. Some people do get annoyed, though. I mean, to be fair, but
yeah,
but there is that. So it's a good point. There is that.
And it shows the power of the people, which is pretty impressive. Yeah. Nina, how about your disconcerting moment?
Well, I was going to say commuting, and then Vero took, it was not commuting because I was never worked in Paris, but I have had the privilege of going to Paris many, many times. I was trying to count actually in my mind and going, I don't know. I've been there many times because I had a given moment one of my brother-in-laws who lived there, friends living there. Anyway, and there was a given moment with my brother-in-law, and he lived out in Colombes, which is on the west side of the city center of Paris. That was a long ride. When we had done, Paris with my husband and our daughter, you've been visiting, going to the museums, and it was probably winter. I guess that was the worst part of it, was winter. You were bundled up and we're very hot. Getting to the bus, you were very hot because you have like 3 layers on. And there's so many people. So we just kind of squeezed like that. I remember having my daughter falling asleep on me, so I'm carrying her and going off. And then the RER trains that were so filled on other occasions, right? So filled that it was like Tokyo, like these images of Tokyo where they're pushing people, like into and people are going, and then suddenly you end up like underneath somebody's armpit that is not smelling very nice, or whatever, somebody's just eating garlic and is a little too close for comfort. But all that said, it does not take my love for Paris away. I mean, obviously I haven't lived there, so I can't really talk about life in Paris, but I guess that with all the times I've been there, that gather a few memories here and there. So, even though, yes, bad things happen anywhere in the world, bad things happen to me in San Francisco, bad things have happened to me in Rome, wherever. but it mustn't overshadow, like it's not the only thing. I will never remember that, first of all. The first of all would come the nice memories, obviously. Yeah. I try to.
You reminded me of something of when I was traveling as a student in the 90s and I was in Paris when smoking was allowed on all public transportation. And I remember taking a train and, coming from California where people just really didn't smoke. It wasn't really a thing. I remember feeling like I was suffocating and I passed out on a train because I didn't understand when I bought a train ticket. Like I was going somewhere just outside of Paris and I didn't get that like smoking versus non-smoking was a thing. And like, maybe I don't even remember if they had non-smoking. It was just being like it was like traveling in a cloud, if I remember correctly. So I don't know. Do you remember that, Vero, how people smoked everywhere?
I could have mentioned that as one of the unpleasantness, but that's not just Paris. It still is to some extent all of France. But yeah, it was a pain. And going to a restaurant to enjoy a nice meal, you would arrive at a small, how small the restaurants are and how close the tables are. And I loved how some restaurant owners would deal with that. They would say, so you would arrive and you say, I want a non-smoking table. There were about 6 in the restaurant. And so he would say, oh, over here, madame. And he would take you to that corner and 2 tables off. That dude is like through the whole meal. So I think that law was very welcome for a lot of people because when you got home, your hair would reek, your clothes would reek. So you would hang, I had a balcony. And you would hang your clothes overnight outside, your leather jacket, whatever. So in the morning, it wouldn't reek of stale, like cold tobacco. It was nasty. I mean, that law was a big improvement, I think. It's a lot better than it was.
It's almost weird to think about. It's like a dream almost to think about the way it was back then, because it was such a ubiquitous part of your experience of everything in France, just the amount of smoking. I remember I hadn't seen anything, and I don't recall that in Italy. I mean, I know people in Italy smoked, but I don't think it was that scale.
Yeah. And people today will complain, the French still smoke so much. And I'm like, no, this is nothing like what it was outside a cafe. Trust me, this is not bad at all. There's worse, like a strike.
If I could take a little trip down my own memory lane regarding this topic with kind of off-putting things. I mentioned yesterday when we were talking with Julian that I had the great fortune of being able to study in Paris on 2 different occasions. And when I was teaching high school Spanish, I was taking night classes at the local community college, just, beginning French and went as far as I could doing that because I just love the language. I didn't really have any other intention. I just wanted to be able to communicate better every time I traveled to Paris. And then I found this opportunity through the Sorbonne, which is open to anybody all across the world. And they have a course called the French Language and Civilization. And it's kind of an extension program that they have through the Sorbonne. You can do a 2-week program, 4, 6, 8, a semester, a year, however long you want to do. And the first time I did a 6-week program there, I was, completely nervous about it. I didn't know anybody. I was barely getting to know my classmates. And one of my classmates who now lives in France, who lives in Paris, and he works for a media company there. He said, well, there's a film festival going on. Do you want to go with me? And, we can hang out. We'll go to dinner, take a drink, whatever. We'll go. Sure, I'll go there. So he gave me the address. I went over there and I went early because I wasn't confident exactly about where I needed to be. It wasn't quite close to the metro. And so I knew I was going to have to go down some whatever weird ways. So I got there ahead of time, maybe by 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes. And it was, even though this was the summer, it was a fairly cold day. So I had on a jean jacket. I had a huge scarf around me. I had a hat. I had a sweater underneath that jean jacket and whatever pants I had. So I was fairly bundled up, nothing very interesting, just whatever. And so I'm there and I'm pacing back and forth, like, where's my friend? Where is my friend? When is my friend going to show up? Like I'm by myself, blah, 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 blah. And in those 10 minutes as I'm waiting, a gentleman walks by, and again, my French is not very advanced at this point. It's still very basic. And he says something to me, and I say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak French very well." And I said that in French. And he then said it again, but then he took something out of his pocket. And all I saw was a flurry of yellow papers. And they weren't papers. In fact, they were currency. And it was probably 5 or so yellow bills. And those of you who know your euro denominations know that those are 200 euro bills. And so what he was offering to me was money in exchange for favors, let's say. And where I happened to be by Saint-Denis, Rue Saint-Denis.
Ah,
okay. Now that story makes more sense.
You should have started there.
Oh, because that would have given it away.
Yeah, I would have given it away. But
so Rue Saint-Denis, I don't even know what theater is by there, why we were going for this film festival, but that has, at least in the past, I don't know how it is now, but was very much the lane of the ladies, let's say.
The lane, I love it. The lane of the ladies.
That's nicely put. Very nicely put, I would say.
I didn't know that about you. I mean, we've known each other so long, and yet that's something I didn't know you at one time could have become a lady of the night.
And according to that gentleman, I was worth at least 1,000 euro. So there you have it.
Voila. And that tells us something else, that you had tied that scarf of yours very well, because obviously it caught his eye. That scarf was tied in a way that, caught his eye.
But the moment that we both realized, that I realized what he was asking, and then he realized that I was not offering that at all, that was not the look on both of our faces was just, I mean, he was mortified, I was mortified, and he just scurried away. It was so funny. And
that is a good story. Yeah, that is a good story.
A lost in translation kind of story.
Yes. And then it's like, well, I could have had $1,000. No.
Don't go that way, Trish. Don't go that way.
Never. Oh my gosh.
Good for thought.
That neighborhood is so gentrified now. It's changed so much, La Rue Saint-Denis, that in fact, entire sections of Paris have. Paris has become so gentrified, and that entire area looks vastly different from what it was. It's really interesting to see, actually, between the 80s and now.
There, and then going off towards Les Halles, right? Because all of that construction has happened. And how much has developed there? Because I haven't seen any of that new stuff, really, because of the pandemic.
You'll need to go to a favorite restaurant of mine in Les Halles, near Les Halles, Le Bouillon du Petit Pharamond. I recommend it to everyone I know. You know the Bouillon, those restaurants from the 90s for working classes? And there's a new thing, like a lot of new ones have re-emerged. And Le Bouillon du Petit Pharamond, which is in a side street very close to Les Halles, fabulous food, great ambiance. And if you go inside, the decor is still what it was at in the late 19th century. And so cheap. I mean, you won't believe the prices for the food there. All traditional dishes that they used to have back in the day.
Well, and I know our viewers are going to ask, what is that place? So we'll ask Vero to type that into the chat.
Yeah. I'll type it in. I go almost every time I go to Paris. It's wonderful. There are lots of bouillon. Bouillon meaning broth. They used to, because they served soup a long time ago to the people of Les Halles, in fact, who worked around the clock. And this one that we opened a few years ago on the side of an old restaurant, it's great. It's really fun.
Les Halles, I just want to say, for those of you that don't know Paris very well, used to be the big marketplace of Paris. And you see these romantic photographs of the past with all the beautiful fruits and vegetables and meats and all this stuff. And then you go there thinking, oh, that's cool. I love food markets. And it's not cool. Last time I was there, I was like, oh, it was like an underground, ugly concrete shopping mall. So hopefully it'll be resurrected to something more interesting in the future.
Yeah. I wouldn't hold my breath on this.
All right.
They have slaughtered that place repeatedly since they killed the old food market, and I don't think anything pretty will ever come out of that place. And it's one of the great myths about Paris, that story about the food market of Les Halles that was carted out to the suburbs, to Rungis in the early 70s. And it was a big deal. The Parisians fought it as long as they could, but what they destroyed and what they lost when they did that, there are tours that you can take, walking tours in that neighborhood that still tell you the story of the old food market. It was a city inside the city where everybody rubbed shoulders, the bourgeois, the servants, the workers, the people who worked Léal. It was an incredible place. So I never knew it, obviously, though I'm old, but
there's a great movie, a great French movie where you can kind of get a sense of that, because for me, it's always hard to visualize what isn't there anymore. And so there's a recreation of it. And I don't know what the movie was called in French, but the way they translated it in English was A Very Long Engagement. And it was the movie with Audrey Tautou and Gaspard Ulliel, who very sadly just this past week, he passed away. But there is a scene in which Jodie Foster, who is fluent in French, she's in there and she is a vendor at the Léal market. And it's really cool to see just how all of that was set up with all the hustle and the bustle and just all this outdoor space. And you could imagine the smells and the hive of activity.
It was just like a jungle in a way. And if you want to see a big representation of what it was like, you can go to one of my favorite museums in Paris, the Petit Palais. And there is a giant painting of Léal back at that time. Yeah. It's my favorite painting there, right before the Sarah Bernhardt painting. I have two there that I love. But this capture of the market where you see the people selling and you can almost smell and hear the sounds, you know. It's a great place.
It's so funny to talk about this, because this has always been for me kind of a weird sadness about Paris, is that every city I can think of in the world, really, but especially in Europe, has that really fantastic food market. Like, you know, Nina, you and I in Avignon went to your fantastic food market, and Paris just doesn't have it. And you hear stories about this famous market that was this incredible thing, and it just feels like such a tragedy. I mean, they have smaller ones, but there's nothing that, considering it is like the home of fantastic food, you just feel like there should be some really mega incredible market.
But then again, you know, Lyon has, I mean, Paris can't have everything. Okay. Let me just say it that way.
Yeah, I mean, come on,
you know, so Avignon has a nice one. No, I'm just saying Lyon, for instance, that their food market is incredible. The numbers of restaurants in Lyon are enormous. So it's like, I'm okay with it, you know, because there are smaller markets in Paris. And then if I really want to experience that, I go to the gastronomic capital of France, which is actually not Paris.
It's Lyon.
That's right. But, you know, but yeah, you can easily get to Lyon from Paris. So yeah, it's a loss, but yeah.
I agree with Nina, and the Tours, my city that you see behind me there, Tours has an incredible halles or covered food market, and other French cities have them as well, but we have a really good one here. So sorry, Paris, but we still have those. But no, to be fair, Paris has markets in all the neighborhoods, most neighborhoods, and has since the Middle Ages. But what they do have too are market streets, and everybody knows Rue Claire. Everybody knows Rue Claire, that's right. Everybody goes. But I used to live next to what I think is one of the best ones, which is Rue de Lévis in the 17th. And I stayed for New Year's Eve at another great one, which is the Rue Daguerre in the 14th arrondissement. And there, when you go, you can still capture, I imagine, what Léal must have been like on a smaller scale, because it's a street and you have food vendors on both sides, and they call out, you know, why try this? Or, you know, so some of the markets have kept that, and that's nice. And you can find that in Paris still.
Can we remind people that when they do go to Paris, and the same is kind of true or very much true in Italy, that when you see these produce vendors, you know, that we do not touch the vegetables. We don't touch the food. You don't get to pick that yourself. You ask very kindly, you know, I would like to have this, that, or the other. And then they, because they are expert, they know what to pick. And you can tell them, I want to eat this for tomorrow, or I want this ripe for today. And I love that, because I don't have to do any of the thinking. They just give me the best that they want to share with me.
Mm-hmm. That's a good
point. But careful, if you are new in the neighborhood compared to if you have lived here for 30 years, I'm just saying, I've seen what happens once in a while, I'm not saying where, with whom, and for what, but
we want names, Nina.
we
know.
Want names. I can just see the advantage of me having lived here so long that now the vendors of the market hall in the covered market in Avignon, they know me. And so you want your tomatoes like that, or that's the advantage, right? So there is a thing about, they will pick things for you, but if you are just, passing, maybe, I'm not saying, but once in a while, people get some pretty bad stuff, but I would say, sorry.
I was going to agree with you on that, because when I've been in Paris and I've stopped at fruit stands, on Rue du Commerce or Rue Claire or whatever, they're so used to tourists. And I obviously am not French. I mean, my French is pretty mediocre. When I've asked for something, I'm pretty good about pointing out what I want exactly. I would like these 2 peaches, because I kind of know what they're going to do, which is they're going to give me the stuff that's at the end of its lifespan, stuff they couldn't pass off to the locals. That's just my.
So it's a good idea to point, this one and that one, and that's incredible, isn't it? You can get 1 peach or 2 carrots. You might set out for having, buying 1 peach and 2 carrots, but obviously every time you come back with 5 kilos of I don't know what, but because it's so tempting, isn't it? It's so tempting.
But that's the fun thing about making like a quick little picnic, as we were discussing earlier, like where do you go? You stop by the local outdoor market or wherever it is that you are, and you cobble everything together, and then you have a feast that does not cost you very much. And in addition to that, you've now gotten experience with interacting with the local vendors, and you can treasure that as its own memory.
I would actually say also, now that we're talking about food and the theme of this is memories, I am so strongly linked to smell and memories. That's how memories are triggered. And I think it's like that for most people, but I am really super smell oriented. And so as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about the way the cherries smell on Rue de Commerce when I'm walking down there. But the number one smell, there are 2 smells that remind me of Paris. Number one is I love the sewer museum. So I think about that smell, which has it does not smell. It does not smell. It does smell. But the number one smell for Paris with me, without a doubt, and I'd love to know what your guys' smells are, is at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, if you're staying in a neighborhood with a patisserie, that butter smell. Butter is the scent I associate with Paris so much, the scent of all the different pastries baking. And it's not just pastries baking, it's butter. And it just, you wake up at 6 in the morning because you're salivating onto your pillow.
That is a good one, Sarah. I'm in agreement with you completely.
Yeah, and not just Paris, all of France. You can walk past any boulangerie in France in the early hours in the morning and you will smell that delicious smell. It's everywhere. Everywhere you have a good boulangerie, or a boulangerie. Yeah.
Where do you go for your favorite baguette or whatever breads, whatever boulangerie you want to go to? What's your favorite?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
With me, I'm lucky because I have 3 excellent boulangeries around me. But I'm one of the probably few French people who don't buy a baguette every day. I know, shocking. No, I know. I am the embarrassment of all my French friends and family. When I lived in Seattle, it was impossible to find a good baguette, at least for a decade. And so I weaned myself from eating baguettes. I learned to eat my cheese with pears and apples. And when Seattle started having good artisanal bread, I started buying what you would call, those breads made with grain and so forth, big loaves like they had way back in the day. And that's still what I buy now. And those things will last several days. So I can go out my front door and there are 3 boulangeries where I can pick up a croissant or a good bread made with spelt, with whole wheat, whatever I like. So that's what I do. I'm not faithful to one. I just go wherever I am. There are lots of good ones right out there.
My cousin who lives just south of Paris, she lives in a little tiny village in the middle of nowhere south of Paris. And I go and visit her sometimes. And the last time I went to see her, the village, she lives rural. She has horses. She lives out in a rural part. So if we go to the village didn't have a boulangerie anymore. I don't know if they closed or something. So because it's rural, they actually put on the side of the street a baguette vending machine that would bake the baguette for you while you stood there. That's how dedicated they are to having their fresh baguettes.
Yeah, they have those machines. There is one in Amboise. You've all been to Amboise in the Loire Valley, and there is one right outside the train station. And there's a very good local baker who puts the baguettes in the morning and several times a day. They're baked already, and he just puts them in there. And I took one out one day to sample them, and the baguette was quite nice. It was so it helps people, commuters who come home late at night. Or in small villages, like you say, the Boulangerie may have closed. So times are changing. France is trying to get on with the times, but God forbid the French should go without their baguettes, even if it has to come out of a vending machine. Yeah, right, Nina?
Cost now, is it still like €1.10?
Yeah, the price
depends.
It depends. Yeah, the baguette tradition, the best is more than the regular baguette. You don't want to buy the regular baguette. So the tradition will be around 110, sometimes a little more. It depends. The prices are free, so anybody decides how much they want to charge. So,
and what's nice is you can get a demi baguette. If you're not going to eat that whole gigantic thing, you can just get a half one, which is nice.
Yeah, and you can get the half roast chicken too. You go to the market and you get the half roast chicken. You get the half baguette. Why buy the whole thing if you're not going to eat it? They'll be cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
Nina, you were going to say something?
No, I was just saying for the prices of the baguette. I don't know, Vero, have you followed that discussion? There was some kind of, was it the supermarket chain of Leclerc, I think?
Yes.
Who was going to sell baguette for 60 something, I can't remember, 60 cents or 70
They're
cents.
just cutting prices, basically. They're cutting prices, yeah.
And then all the bakers of France kind of went, what? Sorry.
Yeah, they
have. Yeah, they have their little bakeries, they pay rent, they pay, people to work there, and a big chain of supermarkets obviously can make it cheaper, but not good. And I was going, where is France going? This is on the road to revolution.
Well, or we're going back to what happened before before they started regulating how baguettes should be made again a few decades ago, because the quality of bread had totally tanked in France. So many bakers took, the shortcut, and the bread quality was so bad that they had to step in again and enact a law. Was it in the 1990s? And they said, this is a baguette tradition. These are the ingredients. This is how you make it. And if you don't make it on site, you cannot have the word Boulangerie above your store. So maybe some of them are going back to the shortcuts and the lower quality, claiming they want to help the people who can't afford to buy an entire baguette.
Well, they're taking a clue from American business like Costco, because like Costco sells the chicken for what, $5, $4, and they take a hit on that. So it's just a business strategy.
Yes. You big chickens, super big chickens. Yeah.
Yes, and you talking about the half chicken. The second smell for me that's fabulous from Paris is the roasted chicken. I don't know what they do to the chickens in Paris, but they don't taste like that anywhere else.
They spray them. They put them in, and then they chew.
Spray them with what? What do they spray them with?
No. They feed them.
Roast chicken smell, of course. Roast chicken smell, and it's organic. It's made with plant.
No, you just ruined my dreams.
Oh, I'm so disappointed that you could actually buy that. I'll buy that for my house. I'll just spray it on my whole house.
Yeah, that would be a nice spray to have in the house, actually.
Yeah, it would. That's better than other smells, that's for sure. I live with teenagers, remember?
Yeah, I knew those days. Yes.
Man, those roast chickens, though, I just feel like that is, for me, when I think of France, that's only second to the baguette as the classic French food, a roasted chicken, and not necessarily from a restaurant, one from just a bakery. I mean, is my impression incorrect? But that's how I feel like when I walk around Paris.
I don't smell what came to my mind was in the Marais district. There's, close to the Jewish History and Art Museum. There's some fabulous restaurants with Oriental food, kind of Middle Oriental food. You go through that, you have to stop. I mean, that is for me, it's more like spices and interesting, intriguing smells, because that's Paris also, right? It's not just classical French food. it's also that you can get these. I remember, was that yesterday, Trish, you talked about something about having Cambodian food or
Laotian and Vietnamese food.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
for me, coming to Paris was, I remember coming from Copenhagen in 1980 on my first trip to Paris. But, oh, this is so metropolitan. This is so international. And it has truly stayed a great mix of all kinds of nationalities and countries from the colonies or territories, etc. But just a vast choice that you can't just walk by it. You have to taste all of it, obviously.
The other smell that I think you really get a lot of is the cheese shops. And that's something that I don't think Americans, I mean, for me, that was a shock the first time I walked into a true French cheese shop, because it's kind of an assault on your smell, on your sense of smell, because it's not a pleasant smell, actually, if you're not used to it. But that is something really, that feels very French too. Is that something you guys think is very French, the cheese smell?
Yeah, I missed that one in the US. I did miss that. I could live without baguette, but I kept splurging on French cheese in the US. And thank goodness for Trader Joe's. All my followers know I love Trader Joe's because they were the ones who had the French cheese that was more affordable than in other supermarkets. So yeah, the cheese smell definitely speaks to me. Yes, I like that. I like that.
And come to the south, it's goat cheese smelling out of the, particularly.
There's stomach is grumbling now. Thanks, ladies.
I know, right? We're all going to be starving.
I love going into those cheese shops though, because, I think I'm pretty well educated on food in general. But when I go into a French cheese shop, it's like falling through the looking glass, because there's all these cheeses I've never seen anything like before. Some of them that are so foul smelling and slimy looking, and you're like, and they're orange because they're covered in mold, and you're like, why would you eat that? But then they give you a little taste and you're like, oh, I see why you would eat that. It's like, I don't know. That's one of my favorite experiences in Paris, actually, is to just go into a cheese shop and ask the person at the counter, if it's not busy, can you help me make a selection of things that maybe I've never tried before? And that with a warm baguette and just go sit down on a park bench, that right there is good living, I think. Oh, and a bottle of wine too.
Well, and they'll also tell you, like, if you're planning a meal, you're saying, I'm going to be serving this, this, and this, what cheeses would go well with this. And they know because they're the experts, which is fantastic. Because I know I like what I like, but to have that kind of coordinate with the rest of the meal is really a cool thing too.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, madame.
No, I was just going to say what's interesting is that if you take your food choice seriously, right? I'm thinking about this cheese, but then on the other hand, when you give the impression or just, telling the truth that you know what you're talking about and you are really, seriously, then they will always really seriously help you. I've noticed that where you, when you come in, just go, let me just have a brie and a comté, like this. Lots of people would do that. They know what they want. But if you are searching for an answer to your questions concerning cheese, they would love you, because you are seriously engaging in a conversation about what is the most important thing to talk about in France: food.
Yes.
You talk about food before you eat, like when you buy it, at the aperitif, when you eat, and afterwards, right? So it will be this kind of, that and politics, but
it's the common denominator, the food, the topic. It really is. No matter who you are in France, you love talking about food and eating it too on the side. But there's a good tip for people who feel intimidated doing what Sarah does, to go inside a cheese shop at a quiet time and ask the lady to help. Some people feel, I find when I talk to clients, they feel really intimidated doing that because they don't speak French. So there's this new trend in France that started a few years ago that's really cool, because when you go to a cafe or a bistro now for an apéro, late afternoon, early evening. There is this thing that's featured on most menus, which is called une planche, a board. And so usually it's charcuterie and cheese, if you get the mixed one, or cheese or charcuterie. So if you want to get introduced to some French cheeses, because they will tell you what they are, and not have to go in the cheese shop and request them, order une planche with a bottle of wine, and then you'll get an excellent selection of charcuterie, an excellent selection of cheese, and then, you know, you don't have to put yourself out there, you just eat it, which is wonderful. So, and everybody does it. It's the big thing in Paris, especially. So.
Man, you guys have my stomach grumbling. I'm ready to get on a plane right now and come and sit down with both of you and have some cheese and some wine and some baguettes. What a fabulous conversation. Unfortunately, we have gone over time.
Already?
Surprise.
Already, I know.
Surprise.
This was fun.
I know, we should do this again. This is really super fun. I really love, I mean, and talking about Paris and food, geez, how can you lose? You can't. So for those of you watching, I just wanted to let you know, if you have any questions for Vero and Trish and Nina and I, please go ahead and put them in the comments, even after this video is over. We're happy to respond to your comments later. And also want to remind you, you can travel with me and Trish and Nina, because Trish and I are doing Paris, Nina and I are doing Provence, and there may actually be a space available on Provence, but Nina's also going to be doing a Provence tour in the fall, and we'd love to have you if you're interested, and maybe someday Vero and I will collaborate on something. Who knows? It could be. And you should definitely follow Vero if you haven't followed her already. And she has right there on her name on the screen, you can see France with Vero. You can follow her on Facebook. Where else are you, Vero, where people can follow you?
Facebook, Instagram, and all the replays of my virtual tours are on YouTube. So subscribe to that YouTube channel. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's great. And she's really kind of our expert on the ground in France of all things French. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. And thank you, Trish, for leading us through Paris this week. And what's up for tomorrow?
Tomorrow we are doing our slideshow. So we're going to go a little bit more in detail about what's going to be happening exactly on our tour. We will answer your questions if you want to put those in the chat feed as well. And Sarah and I are just so excited to share all of this with you, to connect you with our guides on the ground, to connect you with Parisian culture, and to show a side of Paris that you might not have known before.
I'm just looking forward to drinking a kir and sitting at a cafe. So yeah. Oh, wait, before we go, Vero, you told us, but you didn't tell everybody.
That's right.
What are you drinking?
Oh, well, that's because this week these ladies were making crepes and talking about cider that goes so well with crepes. And then Trish was also talking about the kir, or the kir royale. Well, what I'm having is I brought all of these French regions together, and I'm drinking a kir breton, so a kir from Brittany, which is the same, a liqueur, mine is framboise, raspberry, with some hard cider, and it's delicious. It's delicious.
Wow. Fantastic.
I am my little bio organic cider, and it's quite nice. See, I still have some left. How about
that? I'm coming.
Right over. We're all coming over. All right.
Thank you so much.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci à tous.
Merci.
Andiamo. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.